demo on how to create great data tables for your physics labs. So I have populated this data table. I've got it to look kind of nice, some nice formatting already going on. So looks pretty good. What this is, by the way, this is an optics demo that you'll do in second semester. Distance to screen, you measure distance from a screen of an object, and that would be 100 centimeters, etc. Several different data points you're collecting. And then what you do is you get the object distance and you get the image distance. And there's a relationship between these two. So we're going to try to find it, and we're going to graph it to try to figure it out. But for now, let's just play with the data. So first of all, let's clean up our data table so it kind of looks nice. I'm going to adjust the columns so that they look pretty good. If I don't like the way, if I want this to be a smaller column, and I want this data to wrap, then I can go Format, and I can say Text Wrapping, Wrap, and then it kind of makes the width not so long, and it looks really good, so you can kind of shrink it down a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing with this particular column and then this one. I'm also noticing that if you look at the data, some of them have different numbers of sig figs. Like when you're taking a series of measurements, they should all have about the same number of sig figs. So you can adjust that by selecting the data set. I'm going to go ahead and give all of these data points just 2 sig figs, and it's these little numbers that allow you to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and make more, and then I'm going to shrink it down. So now, assuming this is the right number of sig figs for the measurements I took, my data table reflects it. It's nice and clean and neat. Okay, now, in these 2 columns, we actually want to do some calculations, and it's really easy with Google Sheets to do large numbers of calculations really quickly and easily. So the way you do that is you start by going into the cell and you enter an equal sign, and that tells the cell, okay, here comes a formula. Now you can see from the top of my data cell here, it says 1 over d sub 0, so I want to take the inverse of this 0.88 value, and so I say equals 1 divided by, now I'm not going to type in 0.88, instead I'm going to click on that cell, and that brings me the relative reference, and it says, okay, that's going to be under C3, and so it's going 2 cells to the left and the same row. And if I hit enter, so you're going to get that value, 1.13. So I hit enter, and it tabulates that value for me. So it does that calculation. I can do it again over here. This time I'm going to say equals 1 divided by, and I'm going to go with this cell, which is D3. Okay, it's column D, row 3, hit enter, and it evaluates it for me. Now here's where it gets really slick. If I select both of those cells and take this box and slide it down, drag it down, then it's going to calculate every single instance of that same calculation. So let's look at this one, for example, right here. It's going to take 1 over C9. So there's your 1 over d sub 0. And then if I go over here, 1 over d9. So 1 over d sub I. Now notice that the sig figs are all different. So let's kind of clean those up. I'm going to select all this. And let's go with, it's a division problem. And since I had 2 sig figs in each, I should have 2 sig figs in each of these as well. So I'm going to go like that. Okay, so now it looks good. I've got the right number of sig figs. I'm going to shrink down these columns so they look nice. Okay, so that's good looking data table. Oh, something's missing. You have to make sure that in your headers you have the units. So units are going to be 1 over meters for both of these, and 1 over meters for that one. Now I'm going to have to widen those a little bit so they look good. All right, so now it's really nice because within Google Sheets, all you have to do is select this, copy it, and paste it into your Google Doc, and it will look gorgeous. Okay, so that's how you can do some little formulas, a little bit of formatting. Let's take you down here, and we want to look now at another data set. I'm going to widen this so it looks a bit better over here. This is a different type of calculation. So in this case, I have the relationship of pressure equals density times gravity times height. That is a formulaic relationship. And then I have 2 constants. I have the density of water, which is 1,000 kilograms per meters cubed, and then gravity, which is 9.81 meters per second squared. Notice when I'm doing constants, I put the units in a little cell, not in the cell with the value itself, because if I want to use these in a formula, I have to have numbers only. It won't do formula calculations if you have text in them. So that's why I put the units over here. All right, so what I'm going to try to do here is I have height. I have a whole series of heights, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 in meters, and then I've measured the pressure at these various different heights, and now I want to do the calculation of these pressures to see if my calculated pressure or my expected pressure is consistent with my measured. So I'm going to do a little formula here. So I'm going to say equals, now the formula is density times gravity times height. So I'm going to say, okay, equals density, and the density is here 1,000, times gravity, 9.81, times the height, and the height is right here. Okay, so this value is going to be correct, and it gives me the answer 981. That's pretty close to the measured, so I know I'm on the right track. Now let's go ahead and do our little slide down technique, and I'm going to tell you right now it's not going to work. So let's try it and see what happens. Right, we get some really weird answers. Instead of being close to 1875, I get 0. So what's going on here? Let's check the formula. Now the formula that I have by doing that sliding down is I get C25, which is 9.81, times C26, which is blank, times C29. Now that part is right, but I don't want a blank and 9.81, I want 1,000 and 9.81. Now what's happening here is these C25 and C26, they're relative references. When I set them up at first up here, it basically said, okay, C24 is go 2 cells to the left and 1, 2, 3, 4 cells up. And so it does the same relationship here, where it goes 2 to the left, 4 up. And again here, 2 to the left, 4 up. So it's not giving me the right values. I want it to always multiply by 1,000 and 9.81. In order to do that, I'm going to change my original formula. I'm going to lock in that value, that 1,000. I want it to always be column C, so I put a dollar sign in front. And I want it to always be row 24. So I put a dollar sign. That dollar sign locks in so that it doesn't change when I slide or copy down those values. So I'm going to do the same thing with C25. So I lock it in with the dollar sign, lock it in. And then this 28, which represents this 0.1, I want that value to change as I copy my formula down. So if I take it now and I slide down, now it looks good. Okay, now I've got formulas that match up. So again, C2425, it locked in that density value, and then the gravity value got locked in, but then this one changed as I moved down the formula. Okay, so that's your little tutorial on working with data tables in Excel.